Hello and welcome back. So for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which was being held this week, I thought I'd build a Le Mans winner. This is the Audi R10 TDI, which won the 2006 race. Firstly, you can see it's moulded in this rather ugly looking metallic silver. I think it'd be better if it was moulded in plain styrene personally. There's a few mould seams and things like that around the bodywork, not too much flash. A few support pieces here which need to be removed. So this being a mid-engine race car, you can remove the rear cowling to expose the engine with this section here. It's also got some other sections which go behind the rear wheels. I found that these vents could be opened a little bit more. There we have it, and that's what it'll look like, hopefully, when it's finished. Now there's a few sections which will also need to be painted silver, so it's worth gluing them on at this point. You've got these little vents here which go in front of the rear wheels, and you've also got these little panels which go inside the bodywork. Firstly, I'm priming this with Tamiya light grey primer. And then I'm using some Tamiya aluminium. This has been thinned 50-50 with their lacquer thinner, and I'm spraying this from my Galeri Swallowtail. Once the aluminium paint had dried, I then used the lines on the bodywork to mask off these roll hoop sections. These are in red on the number 8 car, and the sides are also in red, but the roll hoops are yellow on the number 7 car, if that's the one you choose to build. So I'm joining it up here just temporarily so that it will help me find the fronts of the roll hoops. Now what I didn't do, which I would do if I was to build this again, is cover up some of the vents from the inside. Annoyingly, there was a little bit of bleed. I cleaned it up a bit later though. Here I'm using some Tamiya Gloss Red, that's their X7, also thinned 50-50 with their lacquer thinner. And after doing 3 or 4 coats of that, you can see how it's turned out. I'm pretty pleased with how this looks. It looks very nice and sharp. There's also a couple of fins which need to go onto this front section here, which need to be red. And here's how the sides look. So you can see in places where unfortunately a little bit of red has bled onto parts of the bodywork. So later on I'll mask off some of the sections and repaint the body in aluminium. Annoying, but there we are, I'll live and learn. Now we need to add these fin parts to the side. I've painted these red already and then added a little bit of Tamiya extra thin cement to glue them into place. Got a smaller vertical part and then a slightly curved part which goes in front of it. It does recommend painting the back of these in black, but I don't think you'll notice. Now then there are some large decals which go on here. Now if I was to do this again, I would have given the body a light clear coat over the aluminium paint, just as I found that the decals didn't move very freely, even with a bit of help from decal setting solution. I'm using Mr. Mark Setter here. Now these sections will eventually have a kind of matte satin finish. See, annoyingly these rear ones curled up. These are very large, so be patient with them. The decals did settle into the pattern of the vents here, but yeah, again, just try to smooth them out as best as possible. Using a wet cotton bud here. Incidentally, if you do damage any of these decals, I found that this grey pretty much matches Revell tank grey, that's Panzergrau in German. So yeah, later on I found that some places where I'd accidentally just nicked the decal a bit, they were very useful. Then you've got a few other decals, and they're all printed really nicely. All these Revell cartograph decals printed in Italy. This one's number 8, the race winner. Unfortunately, I don't think the Audi ring decals show up very well on this aluminium paint. However, things like these LMP1 decals that go on the side here, which have got a bit of metallicness to them as well, they're really nice. Now these were the only decals that split, but thankfully it wasn't too difficult to reposition them. There's the names of Biela, Piero and Werner. And I forget to show it here, but also you need to put a little TDI logo on the inside of those. And there's also these tiny decals which go on the inside of the, in inverted commas, passenger side of the car. Be very careful with those. And you've got these little clips that go around the bodywork. They give you extra of these. I also added a small black circle next to the cut-off switches here to replicate the one that's on the real car. There we are, decals nearly complete. Just a few more to add. Now this section down here on the front has a large grey decal. It's the same as the grey decals on the bodywork. As I said before, this will need to be a kind of satin matte finish. You've got some little Michelin decals which go at the bottom of that. There's a small little arrow which goes underneath, because this is where the tow hook would be on the real car. These decals will be black if you use the number 7 car with the yellow roll hoops. This is why it's important to add the large decals before the small ones, so that you know exactly where ones like this need to go. Line up these decals here with the screws for the end plate. I've seen that there is an aftermarket set that you can get for this, which replaces some of the wing and aerodynamic parts with photo etch, which I'm sure would make the car look that little bit more realistic. I found these wing end plates looked that little bit too thick. Now building the diesel V12. It's a fairly simple engine. If you compare the look of this to the real engine bay, there's a lot more wires and things like that. You could add as much detail as you wanted, but I'm not someone who tends to display cars with their engines exposed anyway. So I just went for the basic detail that came with the kit. Got these exhaust manifolds here, which I think are connected to the turbos as well. I glued all of these before painting them. There's a few fiddly pieces here that need to go on top of these sections. Then the engine was all painted in silver, and the suspension parts have been painted in semi-gloss black. This slides into place. And I did these sections here in gunmetal. Felt that that looked a little bit like the carbon fibre. Could have added some carbon fibre decals instead, I suppose. The exhaust parts were painted silver and weathered using this Tamiya set, with a bit of burnt orange and a bit of blue. And that's how it will go in. Floor of the car painted semi-gloss black, with a bit of silver in the back of the engine bay. Now I found that these parts here, the rear axle painted copper, didn't fit very well, so they needed a bit of a trim, but then they did glue into place. And then the rear axles clip, just like so. When you eventually add the wheels, they will snap into place, so do be very careful with the suspension on this because you don't want to damage it inadvertently. Here you've got the ends of the exhausts, made up of 2 parts each, painted silver and then weathered just like the other parts. Disc brakes are very, very simple. I looked at the real car and the calipers seem to be red, but the Brembo decals that came with it were also red, so I painted a bit of silver over the top of the calipers to add the decals. Then you've got these Audi TDI decals that go on the top. Found that they needed to be trimmed ever so slightly so that the Audi rings would fit over the top of the moulded detail. So you can see here how I'm repositioning it. But this is a nice feature. Always good to have a little bit of extra detail like this, as the real car would have. And this car comes with some carbon fibre decals, like these ones here, which is always nice to have. More common to see this on Revell kits than Tamiya, I would say. But the carbon fibre has a slight bluey purpley tint to it, so it would be difficult to find something to match up with it. You've got these radiator parts. They clip together like so, painted silver, and put a little bit of panel line accent into the back of that. Then we've got some more carbon fibre decals for the interior here. This is good, it's got little holes which will go over these switches, and these little boxes have been painted silver. And there is how it looks with all the extra decals. I'm pretty happy with that. And there's a few other gadgets and gizmos to stick on. It's this kind of attention to detail which does really help the look of the kit. The front lip has been painted black underneath and has a small carbon fibre decal on top, and then you stick that onto there. The front section was all painted in semi-gloss as well, and then you add the suspension to the underside and the top. Now, when attaching the controlling arm to the front axles, you need to do the whole sort of melting down one side to form a rivet. Unfortunately, I forgot to film that section, so I can't show you it here, but refer to the instructions if you're unsure what to do. There's the discs. You've got this, I think this is the fuel cell, which goes behind, and you can see it's got the little fuel filler cap with a small shell decal which goes onto that. So you've also added the pedals and then that section which goes over the passenger side. I've chosen not to add the seat at the moment. Just used the decals for this as well. It turns out that the seat has a very, very tight fit, so I'm not going to glue it yet. Here's the steering wheel of the real car. And you can also see where some of the decals go onto the carbon fibre section behind. The little yellow switches on the left and the other switches on the right, these were labelled incorrectly in the decal instructions. Small aero screen goes behind that. This little black section goes here. It's a shame there's no carbon fibre for this. And then once the body had all been clear coated in some Tamiya Gloss LP9, I then matte black painted the driver's seat surround. Had to be very, very careful with this. I'm using Revell acrylics for this job. Here's the tyres, nice slicks. The wheels were a bit of a tight fit, so needed quite a bit of force. And the wheels have been painted in gloss aluminium, just like the rest of the body. There's some little OZ decals which go in the middle. And there's these Michelin decals and these little white ones that go on the outside. As I said before, these snap into place, so do be very, very careful. Don't force them. There we are. I painted the centre of those in a bit of gunmetal just to make them look different. So you can see the light surrounds are the same matte black as the seat surround. And you've got the rears of the lights here. They've been painted in chrome silver. And then you glue those into place, and then the light lenses just go into the middle of them. Then add the light surround. This has been glued with a little bit of PVA. As you can see here, PVA is great for gluing lights because it dries clear and it's not going to fog up the glass. There's the steering wheel, and that sticks in to here. There was a little bit of flash on this section, so that needed to be sanded down. But there we are. Again, be very careful with the front wheels. I found that one of them wouldn't fit very well, so I removed the hub and clipped it into place like so, and then reattached it. And the other one actually wouldn't stay on at all, so I needed to use a bit of super glue. That meant that it wouldn't spin, but never mind. And then you've got the rear support sections there. Those have got carbon fibre decals. And these side sections have got these clear parts with this event decal which goes onto the back. And then the rear lights with another decal go on like so. There we have it. Now it's an unusual way of doing the rear spoiler, but make sure that these rear sections are pushed in firmly on both sides so that they're the same height. Here just test fitting the tub. However, I found the best way to fit this section was actually to put it into the bodywork, because I found that doing it this way around, the seat kept on getting in the way of the bodywork. This is vaguely how it will look. But yeah, much easier to go in like so. You can see these little tabs on either side and also around the central nose section. I used some thin cement for these parts. Yeah, or I could do it tomorrow. Okay, sure. And then this went together really nicely. There's some slots on the bodywork floor to link these all together. Just a bit of firm pressure to make sure that it all stays on. And then when adding the rear cowling, put it around the central rear wing supports first, and then push it into place. Bit of a gap unfortunately, but can't really be helped at this stage. The rear wing also painted in gloss aluminium, but the wing mirrors here are painted in Vallejo chrome. They're supposed to have a much more shiny finish, with some little Oakley decals that go on either side. You can see here how it's a bit difficult to get the cowling to fit smoothly. Then there's just a few aerials that go onto the nose section here, including in the middle of the German flag. tallest one in the middle, and the right angle one at the front. And now it's time to do the diorama. Refer to the instructions, but this is really simple and no glue needed, no scissors either. So all the pieces are readily perforated, so you can just pop them out. Found it best to fit these vertical parts to this horizontal part before fitting it to the inside of the Dunlop bridge. Be very careful when doing this, as this is all cardboard, so you don't want to accidentally damage it. When the slots for the tabs wouldn't open up properly, I just used the end of craft blade just to pop those out. And yeah, I built this whole diorama in less than 10 minutes. This was by far the easiest part of this whole build, in spite of the fact that I'd never made one of these Revell 3D puzzles before. As you can see, it looks nice, nowhere near to scale though. Then you've got the wooden base here, and then this has been sped up. Thankfully you can't really see that seam down the middle once you put the car on top. You've got this little Audi R10 nameplate at the bottom, which you could leave off if you wanted to use this diorama for a different car. Again, this is really simple, goes together really nicely. You've got these little barriers on either side. I think these don't look too bad. However, I think the tyres and the fence look a little bit too fake, so you might want to leave them off. The bridge is a really nice feature and obviously an iconic part of Le Mans. And there it is finished. Let me know what you think down below. I'm going to give this kit a score. For value, I got this for an unbelievably cheap £10. However, it retails for close to 50, which with paints and a diorama isn't bad. I'd say 30 for this kit alone is fair. Assembly was fair, although the fitment of the seat and the rear bodywork doesn't fit very well, so I'm going to give it a 3. Accuracy is fairly good with markings for both car 7 and 8, so I'm going to give it a 4. Quality is decent, not to mere quality, but helped by the decals, so I'm going to give it a 4. And Legacy, being a Le Mans winner and the first diesel winner, I'm going to give it a 5. That gives it an impressive score of 19 out of 25. I think the Legacy does a lot of heavy lifting here, considering this is the only kit of this car. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know what you think down below. Have you built one of these? What do you think of the diorama especially? Like, subscribe, and as always, thanks very much for watching.